Welcome to Forever and Ever with Olajumoke Adewumi. I have with me today Olajumoke and Vincent Ukweku. I've known them for quite a while. My husband and I took them through marriage preparation classes, and I've known Anu since she was a teenager. Their story intrigued me, being that Vincent met Anu and proposed within 3 weeks. I invite them today so that we can hear their story. Thank you.
Hello. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. Come with me.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see you. You look lovely. Vincent, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for inviting us.
It's been a wonderful journey, isn't it?
Yes.
And do you care to take us through? I know you saw this lovely young lady, and within 3 weeks you decided that she's your wife.
Indeed.
And how did that come by? What exactly were you thinking?
Oh wow! Indeed, it's a lovely story. Because I was in a point in my life whereby I was looking for a wife, and I wanted to settle down. And sometimes I'll go outside and start singing for my wife without her being here. So I went through that period for some time. And then I can never forget, it was back in 2014 when I went to work, and so we were outside at workplace, and I saw this tall girl with a massive afro. I think she was wearing a white and a blue jeans. I still can't forget. And I was like, oh, okay. She looked interesting. And fast forward a couple of weeks afterwards, we found ourselves in the same workplace. I didn't even think anything about it. It was just casual. And then we were having a conversation about people paying tithes in church, and so it was a group of men just talking general, and I was just giving my views, and she just came from nowhere, and she was just quoting scriptures about tithes, and she was passionate, and I'm thinking that was what really got my attention first. I'm like, okay, who is this person? Like, so passionate about the things of God. So I was like, okay, I've got my eye on you secretly, and it just happened that we kept on talking, still nothing materialized, and I found her with a book, and I'm into reading as well, and she told me she's into reading, and she showed me the book, and it was The Dignity of Manhood. I'm like, why would a young girl be reading a book about the dignity of manhood? And I read the book, and a fascinating book, and I kept on speaking to her, and realized that actually she's got a beautiful heart, and her spirit sort of leaped out. So I still didn't do anything, just left it as that. The following week we were meant to be transferred to a different trust. So it was meant to be the 3 senior validators that were meant to be transferred. The day before we were meant to be transferred, supernaturally, the guy that was meant to go with me didn't end up coming. They now brought her. So we were now transferred together, and then I guess they say the rest.
That's history.
Is history.
Interesting. You said something like you were ready for marriage. I mean, a young, handsome man. How difficult was it to get a wife?
I guess it depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
So I was very selective. So there were a lot of women out there, but that was not what I wanted. I wanted a wife.
Okay.
I wanted a godly wife, which was kind of hard to find at that time.
Interesting. I know we've come a long way.
Yes.
And I remember the days when you were thinking of emigrating to Australia. When all your friends were getting married, and you thought, oh gosh, here am I. Yes, those days. And then the transition. Tell us, because I remember you just calling me out of the blue and telling me you met this young man. I'm thinking, you met this young man. How many days are he's proposed and you're ready to marry? And then I remember you saying, okay, then he's got a child. And I'm thinking, okay, he's got a child. Tell us about what went through your mind.
Okay.
During that process.
I think for me, what really, I know you're already aware that I was in a relationship for almost 6 years, and I knew then that wasn't the sort of relationship that would lead to marriage or that I would want to be in future-wise, lifelong-wise. And when I met Vincent, it was more or less like, okay, everything he said about me was also what I was looking for in a guy, a man that fears God and loves God. That was the main thing for me. And however, when he proposed, was I 100% sure? I was freaking out, when he proposed, because I was like, oh, in my head, before I met him, I was already calculating, like, okay, I'll meet a guy 2 years down the line, we'll get to know each other, maybe third year, if he proposed, like, that was the calculation I had in mind, even before I met him. And so when I proposed, I was like, okay, maybe this is meant to be a different experience. I might have my plan, God might have something different for me. So I jumped in by faith. It was more or less my faith that actually helped me to say yes, not in my own understanding, because left to me, I put 100 things together. It didn't add up, but I knew for me that God was in it because of the things I saw in him. And with the issue of him having a child or no, I'm like, well, if we turned out everyone that has children just because it's not as if they're together or anything like that, I could be in a situation when I was a lot younger, and what would have happened if someone was to marry me, but because I had a child, then they would tell me no. So I think I put that into consideration as well, and then I relentlessly pray to God for peace of mind, which I got in the end.
I know those years where you were anxious about, okay, all my friends are getting married and I'm here alone. I've been in a 6-year relationship which didn't work out, and then I know there was a quiet time.
Yes.
What was God doing in your life during this period?
So fast forward back to, because I met my then boyfriend when I was in college. So going to uni, we were together all throughout. And so during the process, we're doing everything we're not supposed to do, obviously. But because at the back of my mind, I knew who I was, but because I wasn't really standing in that place of identifying who I was then or who I am, it made it difficult for me to sort of like stay away from, because I want that affirmation. All my friends had boyfriend, everyone around me had relationship, everyone. So it was more or less like, oh, we go out, everyone is together kind of situation. But at the end of the day, when we ended up breaking up, it was a mutual breakup, because the guy was actually a good guy, but it wasn't a sort of like a child of God. In that respect, he was a good guy. And when we ended up breaking up, I knew that this is a period for me to stay away. It's a period for me to separate myself from anything or anyone else around or that would want to come my way. And during that period, God took me through a process of going back home, or going back to where I need to submit myself, because I was so independent. I was doing everything I was so independent, working, making money, paying my bills, doing this, doing that, and that wasn't at the back of my mind. I knew that I needed some sort of authority over my head, even though I was a young girl. I had gone to uni. I had been independent. I knew from my deep down in my heart that I needed to go back to where I can submit myself to some sort of authority, and which was what I ended up doing in the process. Like, you know, even though I couldn't go back home, I ended up with my godparents who nurtured me. And I believe I couldn't have done that if it wasn't because I was obedient to what God was helping me to deal with.
That's interesting, because I know the years that you moved when you went to university, you basically did not return home because you were independent and you were just not having it with a lot of things. You're not having it basically, so you thought you could you could do things your own way. Yes, and I know that Vincent, as a young man, you know, you said Anu gave you this book about a manhood.
Dignity of manhood.
Dignity of a manhood. How prepared were you, or how would I say, how did that book help you in transitioning from a young man to a husband or to a father? Would I say, how has God prepared you from transitioning from a young man to a father? Obviously, you've had a child before, but you're not living in the same home, I would think. So how easy was it to transition to having a wife and subsequently your own children?
It wasn't easy, I must say. Reason why I said it wasn't easy is because I want to do my own thing, and God has a plan for me. I still want to hold on to my old baggages. I still want to be part of the hit crew, still go out, and especially in my circle of friends, they were used to making money, a lot of money, and then going out, clubs and spending. So I was around it. So God had to sort of take me away from that circle of influence. So what it did was it sort of changed my taste bud.
How did that happen? Change? Does this change? How did that happen?
No, it's literally, I can't really pinpoint at what point it actually happened, but what I found was I did not enjoy going out again, and when I was in a company, they weren't edifying me. The things that they were saying just didn't sound well in my ears anymore. It's just weird because at that time I was looking for something more. I was looking for something tangible. I was looking for something that would build me as a man, that would help me choose the journey that I wanted to embark on. And I kind of knew that I had a call of God in my life. So that God has sort of changed my taste bud with the people around me.
Okay. I know the challenges that most young men have these days is because, especially if you're a outgoing young man, you have your circle of friends. You want to be happening, as we used to call it. You have to be at the edge of where things are happening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you want to make money.
Definitely.
So really, some of us say that you have to be seen to be, what do you call it, young people? To be networking.
Yes.
You have to be at the place at the right time.
That's right.
Basically. So as a young wife, knowing your husband's taste buds, and his way of doing things, how did you help him to arrive at this peaceful state of not rushing or comparing himself to everybody else, or thinking that I have to strive and grab this, I need to be where the action is and to be a father? How did you help him to achieve this?
I think for me, I would say it's God. It's definitely not me, because I know that there's nothing I can say to him that would change anything, because if he's got a particular taste, it's only God that can help him to change his taste or his way of lifestyle and everything. So my thing was, I need to pray for him. I needed to be interceding on his behalf. So even before we met, I had always prayed for my husband. Even before he approached me, I had always prayed to God that whatever challenges or anything that he's going through, God will give him the wisdom to push through or to whatever it is. I was always praying for him on his behalf. So I believe it's got nothing to do with me as a person, although it did help that I did not have those sort of taste, because if I did, it would have maybe it would be difficult for us to navigate through together. But because I was more, I've had enough. I had so much fun at uni, so it was more like now it's time for me to keep back and be where God wants me to be, not what other my friends or my society said telling me to be.
Thank you. It mustn't have been very easy to live with an independent young woman at home. Did she give you trouble? Or has she been giving you trouble?
Funny enough, Oluwakemi or Anu, she didn't give me any issue at all. Compared to the girls I've dated, in fact, she was a breath of fresh air. Because she had this calm spirit and she knew what she wanted, and which is kind of good, which helped. And she was kind of grounded, which really helped as well. So yeah, she didn't give me any issues.
How has a young man fit into the new family? What is your role as a step parent? How has it evolved? As a young lady and a step parent, how has it evolved?
I think
for our guests out there, how would you, if you were to advise anybody in such a situation?
I think at first it wasn't an easy road to. I would never say I'm a stepmom. I'll call myself an auntie. That's the way I've always approached it, and it wasn't easy, because at first I remember having a conversation with my husband, and he was like, "Oh, are you gonna be those kind of people that would beat or be harsh or rude to my son and this and that?" But I had to show him that whatever is part of you is also part of me. So it was in the way I act with him, that is a son, that help him to calm down, because obviously this is a situation that we're just facing for the first time together. So it wasn't a something that we've experienced before. So the way I handled it was to take him as my own, regardless of whatever it is. So I think that gave him that confidence, I hope. Yeah. So.
You said you have a passion for praying for men. What brought this on?
I think I sort of believe it's from when I was younger. I've got two brothers, one older, one younger, and me and my brother, we grew up together, and I've always found myself taking rap for my elder brother even when he gets in trouble. So I think that's where that passion came from. So growing up, knowing what I knew there was a whole lot of responsibilities on men. I believe it also stems from the things I see men go through, especially in terms of my father, then many men around me, and I had this deep is it empathy, or should I call it, for what they have to go through as men. And because there's a whole lot of responsibility. And the book that I gave my husband then, or Dignity of Manhood by Pastor Billy Akane, it was more of saying that they have a very strong, that God will ask them on the things, the assignment that is called them for. And a lot of men have no clue. So for me, I believe if I pray for them. If that's all I can do for anyone that's got such an assignment, is to pray for them, pray them into that place where God, and for God to open their eyes to see their roles and take it seriously. Because a lot of men, you see, are really just after providing, but they're missing the main spiritual aspects of their family or their life, or even the children. They sort of like let the women take that part, but it is actually their role as a father, as a priesthood of the home, to own the responsibility, the assignment that God has called them to. So yeah.
With the understanding now that you have of your role as a father and a husband, how has that played out in your marriage?
So it helped because, as I said, I was in a place in my life whereby I wanted to settle, and God has been dealing with me. So God had to change, as I mentioned previously, my taste board, and He had to sort of renew my mind in things like priority-wise, what I deem as important. So I went through a period whereby He had to take me, but He had to isolate me to really, for me to know myself and for me to have an intimate relationship with Him. So that period, I believe, is important for any man before they go into a marriage, because you need to find yourself and find your God, so that when you go into a relationship or you go into a home, you're more grounded. So now I see myself as a father figure that I've got responsibility for my wife and my children. So it's up to me to lay down the principles, the building blocks, the foundation. And the best way to do that is knowing who gave you that responsibility, which is your Heavenly Father, and knowing what He expects of you, having an intimate relationship with Him. So I believe that it really helped me as a father to be grounded and to know what His will for my family is, and for me to understand that will and operate in that will.
So on a day-to-day basis, how does that play out?
It's very simple. Wake up in the morning about 5, do our individual devotion. 5:30 we come and we pray, and we just set the tone for the day. Kiss everybody wake up, and we just start the day. And the Lord just takes over. It's easy, and things just sort of falls in place.
That's very good. Easy peasy, lemon squeaky, squeezy. Anu, and I think I need to ask you another question before I go back to Anu.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about, Anu has mentioned the challenges that young men face, and I know there's so many young men out there, the struggles. Can you identify those struggles and how it can be dealt with?
When we get married, you start seeing a lot of Jezebels. They come a lot in all shapes and sizes. I never knew this. Someone said this to me. I said, no. But when you actually marry, the enemy, because the enemy doesn't like a family home, because a family is an institution that God has laid down. And you can see what's going on with Christian homes. So it plays up a lot. But one thing I must affirm to...
I'm sure a lot of our viewers wouldn't understand what Jezebel meant. So if you need to speak a different lingo.
Okay, so there's a lot of distraction.
Yes.
Men are bombarded with a lot of distraction out there. And one thing that we must not forget is that we are first human beings before we are then men or women of God. So we have the same impulses. There's a famous guy called Joseph, whereby he was confronted with such temptation, and what did he do? He flee. He literally ran away because he knew that if he had stayed there, he would have fallen. So we all go through these challenges. Sometimes you just have to run. Sometimes you have to hide. And so I try as best to not put myself in a compromising situation whereby I would have to fall. And that helped. And being close to God and knowing that ultimately you're accountable to God as well kind of helps. It literally helps, because it's not even about your spouse anymore. It's about your Heavenly Father and what He expects of you and the role that He has placed you to be in, for him to give him glory, honor, and splendor by doing his will. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anu, now that you are a wife, your understanding of the role of a wife in the house, how does that play out now?
I didn't at first understood what it was, or maybe I didn't have an in-depth understanding until I was actually in the role. Is it to take care of the children, take care of my husband, meet his needs, meet the children's needs, wanting to have businesses, like everything is all coming at you, like, you know. But one of the things that has helped me to understand and know that I have been called to be a wife and a mother, because not everyone has opportunity, but I have been chosen to. So I take it as an honor. So one of the things that I do to help me is to make sure that I don't take for granted my personal time with God, because I get a lot of strength from that. And every single day I pray for wisdom, every single day, because it's so easy to get into the rat race and get into that. But for me, I really I guard my personal time with God, because there I know even if anything comes challenging, come my way, I'm more calm to deal with whatever it is that I'm faced with. Is it taking care of toddlers? Like it's another ball game entirely. But because I've guarded my devotion time, it makes a lot of impact in my day, in the way it plays out.
Thank you. So obviously you are a stay-at-home mom now.
Yes.
How did you come out to make that decision? Because not a lot of people will have that luxury of privilege of staying at home. Right?
Yes, and I take it as a privilege to actually have the opportunity, because I know some of the things that young people and young married couples face is finances, and they have to go do this and do that just to make ends meet. But God has really blessed us to the fact that my husband's salary is enough for us to maintain our lifestyle. So if I'm to go and work, it will be more or less of excess, just to live in a more luxury, which is not a bad thing for anyone. It is not. Everyone's family is different, and for ours, I think, for me to be at home is the right decision for our family at this point in time, especially because I know it's a privilege to be in and to be able to look after the young ones, the blessings that God has given us.
Yeah. For a young woman who was career orientated,
wouldn't
that be coming down?
Sometimes it still is, because sometimes I wake up, I'm like, I want to go back to work. I want to go back to work. I don't want to stay home again. I really do. I send my CV out. When I even get people calling me, oh, so are you ready to come back to work? But then at the back of my mind, I know something is telling me, no. Because I've been used to the independence, and I believe one of the reasons why this is a lot easier for me was because I had to go back home in the first instance to submit to a sub-authority over my head. That makes it slightly easier for me to sort of like say, okay, we'll do this.
Yeah, so Vincent, being the breadwinner, that means you're calling the shot. Is that correct? Or not?
Funny enough, Being the breadwinner is actually a privilege as well.
Okay.
So in terms, I don't know about calling the shot because my money is our money and our money is my money. So I'm just grateful that God has given us a job and has blessed us that we can have more than enough so that we're not struggling. So and it's a privilege. So in terms of calling the shot, she calls more of the shot than I do in the house. I'm just content that we have food in our table and I'm able to provide. So yeah.
How easy was it to submit your hard-earned cash to her? How easy was it? Was it something you do voluntarily or what? With ease and with the calmness, how easy were you able to do that?
Very, very easy because money is just a tool that we're given to move from one place to the other. There's more important thing than money. We have a purpose that we have to fulfill. Talking about purpose, you sort of mentioned I proposed to my wife in 3 weeks. Some people might think that's crazy, you don't even know the lady. And one of the things that I did say to my wife is that I don't want to spend 5 years knowing you. I will know you in marriage and I will love you through the ups and downs, etc. And it's so key. And one thing that people often forget is that we are all God's children under the same kingdom. So wherever you are, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, God is working on you and is working on me. So when God brings us together, it's a match made in heaven. So you don't have to wait to know the person for 5 years and 6 years and see the flaws and then say that you don't want to marry them or whatever. No, through the journey, yes, you still love her through the flaws, and he as well, you love him through those snoring. But the principles are there. God is always at work in each and everyone's life. And money, back to the question you asked, money is just a tool that God has given us to be able to move from one place to the other. Ultimately, we are called to fulfill an assignment. And I believe that should be our number one priority than the material things that we're going to leave here anyway.
Thank you. So, Anu, just if you look into the camera, I want you to give a word of advice briefly to the young ladies out there who are now in your how would I say, in the place where you were previously. What sort of advice would you give them?
Okay. My advice is simple. Find God and you will find yourself, because ultimately He's the one that would make everything work out together for your good, regardless of what it is that the society or anyone around you or the pressure, because there are pressures and there will always be. It's not going to go away. It's even going to get worse. But once we find ourselves in God and once we find our identity in God, it will make the journey smoother and easier for us to get through those single years and throw yourself into the work of God. You will never be disappointed.
Thank you. Vincent, what kind of advice would you have for our young men who are still looking?
So what I would say to the young men out there, make sure that number one, you have a job. It's so key. And your saving, don't just spend all your money. Make sure you're saving. It's so key as well. You have to build those principles. But ultimately, you have to understand the role of a man. And how do you find a role? You have to go back to your manufacturer. And who is your manufacturer? Which is our Lord Jesus Christ. And He has given us a blueprint that we should follow, which is a manual, which is called the Holy Bible. So you need to go and study and show yourself approved. Know what His plans and purposes is for you. I think once you understand that first, it's easier for you to then build on it when someone else comes. You're not thrown off. So 3 things I've given you. First, I've given you find a job. I've said you should also save, don't just squander your money. And I've also said you should gonna find your maker, which will then reveal who you are, your purpose, and through that, it's just picking up the Bible and just saying a few words. Father, reveal your word to me. You said the Holy Spirit, when it comes, it will teach us all things. It will show me what my plans, what your plans is for me, and the rest, it will just guide you as you progress in life.
Thank you very much, Anu and Vincent. It's been a pleasure to have you today, and I want to believe that you out there, you have learned a lot from this particular episode of our show, Forever and Ever. You want to begin on your journey, knowing that with you, with God with you, all things are possible. Looking and endlessly looking about, oh, is this one, is this that one, might not necessarily be the best thing for you. The Bible says, ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened to you. Thank you.